I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the mums, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen. Yeah, this is the Black Country Blokes chin the fat about everything is mental health, mental health, disability, and life in general. Here with me, Kev Dillon, and my partner in crime, as always, Lee Cadman. Oh, it's been a long old day. I'm shattered, but we're glad to be joined by Rob and Ben. You may recognise Ben. He's been on the show before with his brother Sam and the rest of Georgian and Giants. So, guys, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
But we're going to start, as always, with our gratitude list. And, you know, we've got to remind ourselves, even in the darkest days, there's stuff to be grateful for. Me, lately, doing long days up here, and sometimes you feel that shattered, and some days it's easier to find positives than it is. But, you know, I had a cracking weekend, watched the boxing with some of the lads. And then we went to the zoo, Troy Cross Zoo on Sunday, where we was out looking at monkeys with my girls. So, you know, great weekend. Lee, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I had a week off last week, which was absolutely heaven. Just to not have to do work. It was just great. Yeah, just spending time with the family and catching up on other things. You know, you get that tied down with work, don't you? Sometimes you have a long list of things to do when you're not working, and caught up on all that. So yeah, I'm grateful for the week off. Looking forward to the next one.
And Ben, what are you grateful for, bruv?
Oh, many things. This week, I suppose my son recovering from chickenpox and being on the mend because that's been hellish.
Yeah.
Poor lad. Yeah, he's doing well though. He's recovering. His spots are sort of scabbing over and all that. And other than that, looking forward to the Cabin Club gig on Sunday with Giant and the Georges.
Yeah, that'll be a great night. And Rob, what are you grateful for?
Most things, actually. As I've got older, got less worried about stuff. I just really enjoy my life now. I work a few hours less at work as well. That's always good. I love spending time with family and just hanging around the house. Don't have to do much really. I'm just, as I say, I think, as you get older, sometimes all that the stuff that you worry about when you're younger, it all just like without much of an effort, it starts falling away, doesn't it? So I never thought I'd get to 63. I thought, like most people, when you're younger, you don't think you're going to make it to that sort of age, do you? I think
it seems that far off, doesn't it, when you're young?
Yeah, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, that's it. I love that saying. It says, "A well man wishes for many things; a sick man wishes but one." And I think that's right. When you're young and dumb, you've got all these notions and fantasies and wishes, and when you get older you just want to be content and happy and loved, don't you?
Yeah, and just like sit about
growing moss in my old age.
Yeah, that's the only problem in it. You got to be careful, you don't get overgrown with anything.
So guys, I'll ask you, Rob, what is your organisation called and what do you do?
So Acacia Family Support is the organisation. So we provide support for mums and dads, families who are experiencing perinatal mental health problems. So obviously that, I think most people are aware nowadays that that's an issue for mums, and there's like, they used to say about 20% of all mums are going to experience some form of sort of mental health problem round about the birth, before or after, more often after, but sometimes before. But they're now saying that could be even higher. That could be 25%. And actually,
a lot of women don't admit it, do they, Rob? Because of the fear of having the baby taken from them and being a bad mother.
Yeah. And it's just all that stuff in it that people put on themselves, that not even necessarily is it put on them. Sometimes it is by society, but I think very often, put it on themselves as well. This should be the happiest time of my life. I'm not going to tell anybody that it's not, because that would be terrible, because I should be, and it should be great. And obviously that impacts dads as well. So we support dads as well. So dads and partners who are supporting the mum, if the mum's struggling, then they sometimes need support. But also dads, including me and Ben, have both experienced our own perinatal mental health problems. I had quite serious postnatal depression and anxiety, and my wife was fine. She didn't have either of those things, so that added another level of guilt and shame to the whole thing.
What do you think triggered that, Rob?
I'll be making it all about me when and it's like just giving birth and all the rest of it.
But what do you think triggered that for you, mate?
I don't actually know. I think it was I think maybe it was sort of building anyway. Although I always saw myself as like a really laid back, sort of chilled sort of person. And people who have sort of depression, anxiety and stuff, and whilst I'm sort of all right with that and recognise that that's a thing, as far as I was concerned, that would never be my thing, because it's people who maybe have got a bit of a sort of weakness going on somewhere in the brain or in their emotions. So I think, I've had a lot of stuff happening in my life, and, like most sensible people, just push it all down, don't you? Just push it all down and push it to the side. And
Rob, do you think some people are suffering from it because of the magnitude of it? I think men, I can imagine, suffer more from postnatal once a baby's born, thinking, oh my God, I've got to look after this thing now and make sure we've got enough money coming in, and make sure, that kind of building the anxiety up in yourself. So I remember feeling that when each one of mine have been born, to be quite honest. It's now we've got to get to work and make sure we've got enough food on the table, and make sure we've got enough of this, and make sure they're protected all the time and no harm comes to them.
That's definitely right in it. And then you've got sleep deprivation mixed in with that and all the other challenges. But I think it's important to say that, they've discovered in more recent years that men go through hormonal and chemical imbalances, from before the actual birth, during the pregnancy, to the time following the birth. And actually there are certain changes that never sort themselves out. Your testosterone levels never come back to the normal level. Your estrogen's released. There's all sorts of chemical transmitters being released and being reduced in your body. So there's physical stuff going on as well. So, if you are prone to, and you are sort of set up, it's like that. Sometimes it's a perfect storm, isn't it? That there's certain traits in your own personality. There's certain things going on in your life. There's this going on, that going on, and it all builds up, and away you go.
Am I right in saying as well, for women, it can take 2 years and more for them to regulate their hormones better as well after birth?
That sounds about right. I couldn't say categorically, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? Being able to sync with yourself.
Yeah.
Just to add to what Lee was saying earlier as well about the sort of the pattern. So it tends to be that, if it is indeed the fact that mom's having a struggle as well, often the dad will sort of like quote unquote hold it together until mom's better, and it's at that point the dad will start to show his symptoms. He'll have a chance to reflect on what's happened, having got all the practical stuff out of the way and got things in place, and then that's when dad can crumble quite often.
But that's what happens with us. We hold everything together while the storm's happening, but once the storm's blown over, we crumble, don't we? And I think it's right. Like, moms have moms groups. They go to moms and toddlers, and they have their mothers who talk to them about the body, the mind, the soul. There's the books to help them. But dads, we just hold it together. We go to work. We might moan about the baby keeping us up all night, but we don't talk about the emotional damage and the trauma. And even like, I always remember the maddest thing about being a dad. You go into hospital as 2 people, you come out as 3 people.
Yeah.
And it's something as mad as that. And like before you
very quickly as well, isn't it? Really?
Very quickly. You get used to your partner putting on weight. You get used to them being pregnant, but that doesn't brace you for being mommy and daddy. Then all of a sudden, you're back in the house going, bloody hell, what do I do now? And that amount of fear is overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah. When you get back home and you got the baby, and you're like, especially with your first one, you're like, shit, man, what do I do now? Like, is the midwife not going to come and stay the first night or something? Or, give us a hand, please.
I remember my wife had my daughter was breech coming out bum first, so she had to have an emergency cesarean, and then so I had to stand outside dressed in a giant condom suit, petrified because I didn't want to be that story that I've lost my baby and my wife. People don't talk about that. Like, so you're going through all these fears that you're excited you might be having a baby, but then you might lose everything, and then you hold the baby because my wife was cut in half. And then they kicked me out then. And I was going, but I'm still part of this. I'm not the Uber driver. I'm the person who put the baby inside her. And then you're kicked out because you're just a spare part. Then you're worried all night. Then you come back and then you've got to try and beat it. And all these emotions, they talk to you like the spare part.
You know what, Kev? We've just literally, just as you started saying that, we had a message I've just put up on the screen. I'll put it back up, off Charlene, off my sister. And she put, especially if it's a traumatic birth, must be so hard on dads. Literally, just that might be the best time message we've ever had on the show.
Oh, well done.
We have a lot of dads we support. Yeah, it's that sense of powerlessness, isn't it, as well? Because you're kind of conditioned to be like, you're the one that's going to solve all the problems, you're the one that fixes things. And then being in a situation where you haven't got the medical training and you have to sort of put your faith in these people to save your wife or partner's life or in your baby as well. That is such a crippling anxiety that some dads have and find it so difficult to deal with over time. So just have to Charlotte's message.
But you want to be there for your partner. They're the first, like it was my wife and we both our first child. And then you come out and she's in bits because she's been cut in half. And he's trying to help and then you can't sleep and the baby can't sleep and she can't get comfortable. And it's that kind of thing, like, everyone's trying their best to help, but you're butting heads at the same time. And then you get sleep deprivation. And that's the first way. The best ways of making anyone go crazy, sleep deprivation and isolation. And that's what parenthood is, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think... go on.
No, you go after you, Rob, after you.
I was just going to say a lot, that isolation we cause ourselves, I think, well, I'm just going from my own experience. And because, again, of that sort of my own lack of acceptance of myself, when I was feeling and like that and struggling like that, I thought I shouldn't be, it's wrong. And so that made me not want to talk about it to anybody. And then that's where more of the isolation comes, isn't it? Because you're isolating yourself because you feel like ashamed and like I felt like I'd failed by my own paradigms because I wasn't that person. I wasn't that sort of person. And so when I was experiencing it, that created all sorts of inner turmoil. And that, as you say, isolation, that's a good word. And that is one of the key things that happens.
But even isolated in your own home, aren't you? Because you see she's struggling and she sees you're struggling. And every time you go to talk about you have a row or you have a belly full or the baby interrupts you or you're going to work and it's you're two passing ships going on the same journey.
Yeah. And lots of dads, they say they experience like a sort of feeling of resentment as well sometimes towards the baby, and they know it's irrational, and they know that they love the baby, and they know that they're, to some degree very glad to be a parent, but they find it so hard to have this like change in relationship dynamics as well, where you are, as you said, Kev, butting heads, and maybe there's lots of misunderstandings that can kind of throw over time and cause a worsening. But that's a big part of it, I think, is that change in no longer being a priority for your wife as well, and just realizing actually you've got this really
that's a major one in my opinion, because before the baby you'd walk in, go, "You're right, darling," give her a kiss, and then you're shattered. You've come in from work, she's shattered because she's had the baby, and you walk past each other and greet the baby. You might grunt at each other.
Yeah, the focus is the baby, is always the baby, and your relationship's changed forever. Like you say, it was you and your partner, and now you know, that's sort of almost a peripheral thing, and it's all the baby in it,
and it is resentment in a sense, and it is. Well, I've watched all these TV shows and I've watched all these movies, and I remember once again, my wife had a C-section, and I thought I was going to sob, and I thought I was going to hold it. I thought it was going to be like Simba in the Mufasa holding Simba up and all the like, and I swore my life to my daughter, and I held her close and went, but if you knock my beer over, I'll kill you. Never mind my baby. But what I did, I fell in love with my daughter. It wasn't like some people have this instant boom of love. I loved her, but I fell in love with her, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes
definitely.
sense to both of you.
And a lot of dads feel guilty about that as well, because they think, oh, maybe I don't deserve to be a dad so much because I haven't got this overwhelming, like overly Americanized Disney film sentiment of, and I think that's fair enough to say as well, because I'd say with my first biological son, because I was so like anxious about meeting him and so just manically obsessed with him being there, I did love him straight away and immediately felt this great sense to protect him. But with my most recent child as well, because I had other feelings of guilt towards like, oh, have I abandoned my other son? Am I not going to have as much time anymore? I kind of, although I loved him, it took a while for me to really build that rapport with him, and that's something that's, I suppose, relatively recent. But and that's been hard to admit as well, because you don't want to sort of choose favourites, and you don't want to seem like you're not committed, and so many things to balance out with that. But yeah, I have to say it took a while to get that the connection we have now, and that's quite a normal thing actually. And I think a lot of dads don't realize it's a normal thing, and they think, oh, there must be something wrong with me. I'm not good enough to be a dad. I should love more. I haven't got the capacity. Yeah.
But that's the guilt and the shame, and that's the best friends of any mental health, isn't it? Guilt, shame, loneliness, because I can't admit that I feel this because that makes me shameful and guilty, and then I can't say it, and that makes me lonely. So all these feelings fester on my own, and really, they're a lot more common than you ever thought. Like when I admitted that about not having this Mufasa moment, and I said it to the blokes downstairs at the boxing gym, and I said to the moms, and they went, thank you. I've held on to that for 20 years, and I thought I was the only person who felt that bad of a person. But by having these conversations, like we're doing this dad peer support group every day at the Lions, 12:30 to 1:30, where men can train and talk about how it is to be a dad, i.e., sleepless nights, or you tell your kid off and, oh, you're the worst person in the world because you told them off, or I told them they couldn't go on the tablet, am I a failure, or give them an extra chocolate bar, am I a spoiler, or am I an enabler? But it's all these conversations, because dads on the playground will talk about boxing, football, shagging, drinking, but we don't talk about how it is to be a daddy, the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens.
Yeah, and I think a big part of what we do at Acacia, with it, not dads and moms, especially early on when we first engage with people, that's huge, that normalisation for people, because everybody thinks it's just me. I'm a shit parent. I'm a shit person. I've gone mad. What am I good for? And then just being able to talk to other people who've been through similar things to say, none of those things are true. This is a thing that happens to people, huge amounts of people every year, and you're going to get better. This is a temporary thing. And that's huge, isn't it? That is just...
That's it. I mean, often just for that alone, just for those like realizations alone, you can sometimes crack a case in like one phone call, two phone calls, and the dad's like, oh, actually, no, I'm not a bad person. You made me realize I'm actually quite normal, and thanks for your time, but I'm done now. Great. And often
one of my friends downstairs at the club, he told me a story about his partner went to postnatal depression. She said she had the best pregnancy ever, and they're expecting a little girl, and at that they had a little boy. And she was over the moon. And then a friend just said a throwaway comment, said, I know you're happy being a mom to a little boy, but you feel robbed of the girl you never had. And at that, it just spiraled her. And she went into a real dark place over a throwaway comment, not said deliberately, but that one comment changed the whole narrative for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And then that's when, she's better now. She loves the kids. But a throwaway comment can really bother people, and it's not said in a bad
absolutely.
place.
Yeah, we had a gender reveal party for for our youngest one, and we had a boy. We had another boy, so we've got 3 boys now, and we did it in the style of like Mexican luchador wrestling. So me and my brother Sam, we had the Mexican mask, like Rey Mysterio, out in the in-laws' garden. Had a little routine with like foldable chair and all that stuff, flying elbows, all the good stuff, And we revealed it at the end, like it was. I had like the red mask on to like represent a girl, and he had a blue one on. So I won the match at the end. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's a girl!" And Sam comes with a low blow underneath me, and then I fall over, pull the cannons, and lo and behold, it's a boy. And it was a great, elaborate reveal. But
Sounds fantastic.
certain members of the family were a bit disappointed that we weren't having a girl. They just wanted like a girl in the family as well. Well, for all that effort,
But it's funny though in life how sometimes we're so happy, and one little thing, one little insignificant thing to someone can really send you down a path, can't it?
Yeah, that's it.
And
Sometimes you have these like.
Sorry, carry on.
Carry on.
No, you carry on, mate.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like, you do sometimes have these thoughts that are quite fleeting, but they do still lurk in the dark recesses of your mind, and then somebody just touches that nerve, and it makes it all the more like salient and all the more prominent in your mind, I suppose. And yeah,
and I think like we've got to realise with anyone, if you're mentally well or mentally poorly, we all have many different thoughts throughout the day. You know what I mean? Some could be very dark, some could be very happy, some could just be absolute waffle. It's the thoughts that we cling on to. And I think that's part of my journey of realising when I am going down a path of depression or sadness or self-loathing or whatever, realising the battle is being self-aware. When I'm aware of it, that I can change of it, it's when the thoughts overtake me. And also, like, don't shy away from emotions. Just try not to drown in them.
Yeah.
that's fair enough.
So, can I ask you that? So, in terms of Acacia, what support do you do? Is it a telephone call? Have you got a building where people come in and you do counselling? How do you support?
We've got a variety of stuff. So we've got a few centres around Birmingham. So the mums tend to use the centres as free creche. We do group work as well, CBT-based group work and one-to-one. So it's a listening and befriending service. So we're not counsellors. We don't do counselling. But it's, as I say, it's listening, befriending. There's a bit of group work going on. There's a strong sort of peer support element because most of our staff and volunteers have experienced perinatal mental health problems or other mental health problems. We also provide telephone support. Dads and partners tend to prefer telephone support. We do have some online services and stuff.
Yeah, well, so there are a few dads I go out and about and meet with as well in public, go for a walk in the park, grab a coffee or something, just go and chew the fat and so it is very, but Rob's right, most dads, because of their time constraints and their working patterns, have to kind of like squeeze in a call on a lunch break or something. So for that reason, it's quite difficult to engage with dads sometimes because of those work commitments, but we are as flexible as we can be and give people a fair amount of grace if they need to reschedule and.
And on the same note, lads, I'll just bring the question up. So he's asking that Charlene's asking whether it's whether you refer or how do people get in contact? Is that just anyone can pick up the phone?
Yeah, well, the website's the easiest way. I mean, you can ring us, but if you get to the website, there's secure web forms so you can self-refer. Any services can do an agency referral as well. One thing I just do need to stress, though, is that at the moment we're a Birmingham only support service, and so
it's not a whole for the dads as well.
Yeah, we've had talks on and off in the Black Country, on and off for a few years, but we've just not got to that point yet.
Also worth noting, though, even if you can't access the service if you live outside of Birmingham, our website's got tons and tons of resources on there. That's really, like, as far as I'm concerned, is goes above and beyond like the resources that other organizations put out. On Dad's page, for example, we've got like tons of info about what's normal, like FAQs, videos, links to like, you know, articles, links to TED Talks about it all, and it's a really comprehensive, nice little selection of resources that are really useful. And you know, some dads don't even need to access like a befriending service to make progress.
Yeah.
Some dads just do a bit of reading. They go, oh, you know what, that's great. That normalizes it for me. It validates what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. But I don't need to go to any more support, and often that's really helpful. Yeah,
it is knowing you're not the only one. As I said, the best friend of any mental health is thinking you're the only one who's going through it. And that's through any problem, through addiction, through abuse, through trauma. When you think no one will understand this because I'm the only one. I mean, there's a lot of people on this earth, and no matter what you're going through, you're not the first person who's going through it. So reach out, because there are other kind, brilliant souls who might just give you a few tips that'll help you get through it.
Can I also add as well, for people who are listening to the podcast, we do have the website obviously scrolling across the bottom, but you won't see it if you're listening. So it's www.acacia.org.uk. It's also in the show notes.
Yeah.
And how long have you guys been doing this?
20 years. It's our 20-year anniversary this year. 20 years with mums, and I think we've been doing Dad's work for it's well over 15 years. Some time. Yeah.
Because there's not enough help out there for dads, in my opinion.
It's growing now. It is growing very slowly, yeah.
And it's been this stigma. The woman creates life in her tummy, but a lot of the time, it's not even the creation of it. We help create as well. We put it in there, but it's the loss of the idea, the loss of the dream. And when I talk to people and they're trying to conceive, and for whatever reason they can't conceive, or they have a miscarriage, the man suffers as well as the woman, because it's my baby's going to box, or he's going to play the guitar, or she's going to do ballet, or she's going to box. And it's once that dream's taken away, it's so hard to come to terms with it. So we've got to give him as much love as her, because it's a partnership. You're creating this marvelous creation together. So when it does get taken away, or the fear of it gets taken away, how about we support one another and each other?
Yeah,
I think with sorry, again, you time then. Now you.
I was going to say, just like for those who unfortunately are in that circumstance, there is support out there from other organisations like Cruise Bereavement, for example. There's also specifically to baby loss. There's Tommy's, the charity, and there's SANS as well. And they do a lot of work with supporting people who've unfortunately lost children, whether that be they've lost them just after the birth or they've lost him during pregnancy. We're checking those out. So that's Tommy's and SANS and Cruise for more general bereavement for Cruise.
And what you could say, Rob?
I was going to say, one of the things, unfortunately, with dads, that can be another thing that sort of gets in the way of them being sort of offered support and people recognising what they're going through, is that dads are actually more likely to resort and to lean on sort of risky, risk-taking, more extreme sort of behaviour, rather than sitting in the corner feeling sad, although that can happen too. They're more likely to start going out more and drinking more alcohol, or even, maybe doing more drugs, buying a Kawasaki 1300 and racing round, or whatever, spending loads of time at work. Their way of coping, their way of avoiding what's going on. And naturally, the people around them and the family are like, she's had a baby, it's a real struggle, and he's just misbehaving. Look at him, he's going through his freaking midlife crisis at everybody else's expense. And actually, he's really, really struggling mentally, but because he's doing those things as a coping mechanism, it's not viewed that way. So instead of he's crying out for support, but actually more and more people are sort of looking at him thinking, look at that bloody idiot. But so that obviously becomes a big barrier to that being recognised in that person.
And I had someone, we had someone on the show, And she talked about something similar to that, the love language as well, how we talk to each other and our love patterns. Because that man or that woman, whoever, might find their way of loving someone going out working 7 days a week so they can go on the holidays, whereas the other one sees love as, well, I want you in. I want you being with me. And sometimes, well, I do the housework, but I provide the bills. Well, I do this. And sometimes we love each other so much, but we've just got different ways of showing it. So sometimes just breaking it down and going, I love you, darling. I'm working 8 hours, 8 days a week so I can provide. But if you want me to only work 5, let's express it, because if the cars, the holidays don't mean nothing to you, how about we just have the weekends pushing the baby on the swing? But that's sometimes the hardest conversations to have with people.
Yeah.
Me and Lee always said that we could talk to all these thousands of people on these podcasts and these talks, and the person I love the most in the world, I often struggle to have those conversations with.
Yeah. We actually do a workshop on the love languages. Part of the group work that we do at the centres, which is mostly it is for the mums, isn't it, really? But at the end of each term, we have like a workshop where the dads come in as well, and they talk quite a bit about the love languages as well, actually. So that's quite an interesting topic.
What you going to say about
a very
Sorry.
No, sorry, Karen.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, sorry.
I just getting old. I twitch a lot now. So. Probably just a twitch.
Did a bit of a Mexican standoff then, didn't we? It's like fistful of dollars.
It can happen when you're virtual, can't it? It's harder to read each other when you're virtual than when you're in the same room.
But I do think though, like Ben, if you say like with the love language, it's something that I never even knew existed until a lady called Moon come on our show, and it's something I want to look more into for the sake of my own relationship as well, because it's you do know you love each other, or sometimes you doubt it, because that's what relationships are. Am I doing more than her? Is she doing more than me? Am I a bad husband? Is she a bad wife? And sometimes you're going, well, we're both trying our best, and especially with children and marriage and just juggling life, sometimes going, well, maybe I am doing enough, or maybe she is doing enough, or maybe I can do more, or maybe she's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. It can be very easy to get into that, like, point scoring as well. Like, you come home, I've had the baby day, but I've been at work, I've done the dishes, I've done the hoovering, and it can keep escalating, can't it? And I think we all do. It's quite a natural human thing, isn't it? But as long as we can acknowledge it at the end of the day, and give each other some grace and say, oh, I'm sorry I was that way, and apologise, and not necessarily grovel, but as long as you can put your hands up and say, yeah, okay, we've got a common goal working towards. We want to raise the kids well. Sorry if we get short with each other,
And I think that an apology, and I always say with parenthood, a cuddle is so underrated. And I think the one thing that we all feel, 4 of us can agree, is relationships are hard and being a parent's hard. And sometimes give yourself a break. If you're worrying, are you a good parent? You probably are, because you care enough to worry.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
Just stop comparing yourself with other people as well. That's not, dead easy to say. It's a glib thing to say in it, but that's a source of so much discomfort, pain, unnecessary suffering, and we all do it, don't we? And it's just don't do it.
That's it. And again, point out the obvious, but like people's lives as portrayed on Facebook don't tell the full story, do they?
Yeah. Well, when we compare ourselves, it's that thing as well. Don't compare yourself with the best. The best that you see, which is with social media, is generally what you're doing. You're comparing yourself with all the best bits of somebody's life.
And I'm guilty of it as well. I always have my profile pictures of me and the kids on a day out somewhere. It's not a picture of me at 3 a.m. with shit down my arm, it's stuff like that.
But just remember, my mom's always saying to me, you're as good as anybody and better than most. And that comes back to comparing yourself to the best. Say, but I'm as good as any of these bests, and I'm better than the worst. I'm doing my best. I turn up every day. I'm relevant to my child's life, and I try so hard. And then she say, when you compare yourself, because is your baby walking yet? Oh, mine was walking. Is she walking? People will do it. Babies will do it when they're good and ready, and support them. Don't rush them. They'll do it. I've never met anybody who said, you know what, I couldn't be asked to learn how to walk. You know what I mean? some people can't walk, but that's just how God's made them. But no one ever can't be asked.
My son couldn't be asked for a very, very long time, but in the end,
He
realised he needed to if he wanted to get there first for the cake.
But that's what life is, isn't it? And as you say, back in the day, it was keeping up with the Joneses. Now we're keeping up with the Kardashians. And you're going, let them get on with it. You know what I mean? As long as you've got love in your heart and you've got joy and we can all be fed, that's why me and Lee, ever since we did them support groups next door, remind yourself of things you do have. Remind yourself of things that you're grateful for. And sometimes that'll get you through it, Sometimes when you've had a real bad day and your baby comes and gives you a munch and you're going, you know what? I've got another round in me. I can get through this. And remind yourself of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So what have you got any fundraising coming up, guys? Do you ever do anything like that?
Oh, there's always fundraising.
We're always at it. Yeah. What have we got coming up?
So in the past, they've done things like wing walk, skydive, like what's it called? Abseiling, that's the one. Yeah. They did the Sutton Fun Run thing this weekend as well.
That was the weekend, wasn't it?
All that.
Actually, our fundraiser will kill us that we can't just reel off what the next thing's coming up.
I presume you can go to the site and look at them.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, you've just bailed us out. Otherwise, it would be like die tomorrow.
So you get to your desk, there'll be a dagger on it or something,
Yeah, so on our website, there is all information how if people want to get involved in that. Obviously, there's loads of information about our services as well.
The name escapes me, but you can. Is it easy? Was it one that Sobia always posts? It's the one about if you doing online shopping, they take like a percentage off and give it to our charity for free. But that's all on the website, I imagine. So.
Yeah, hopefully. I do that. It's like when you buy stuff on Amazon, when you set this app thing up and then it runs in the background, you don't even know it's there. And every time you buy some on Amazon, you get 0.0001% or something you choose who you want that to go to.
But I'll
tell you about it, so don't use it for any other charities.
And
you can choose. There's quite a few charities. You choose whichever one you want. Obviously, you pick Acacia. And then it just runs in the background there all the time.
And I don't know whether to ask. Volunteers? Do you look for volunteers, or is it?
Yeah, all the time. We are a volunteer-led organisation, so we've got. Although we have got staff, mainly part-time staff. We're mostly volunteers. So
and I presume you apply online for that one.
Again, there's information on our website for that as well. Yeah. So. So that's across the board with the volunteers. We're obviously looking for those who want to do the actual listening and befriending and the one-to-one stuff. But we also need people to work in creche and people to work in fundraising, people to be sort of welcomers in the centres. There's all sorts of things that people can get involved in, and that we rely on that. They're our biggest asset, volunteers, and I mean that's just an amazing thing, isn't it, that people give the time like that free of charge just to help another human being. I mean, it's just phenomenal, isn't it?
There's a real sense of satisfaction and belonging with that as well, isn't there? And with some great volunteers, they do a wonderful job.
I always think with everyone going on strike around the country, which I'm a fan of people going on strike, but I always thought, heaven forbid if the volunteers ever go on strike, then the country will crumble.
Yeah.
Volunteers are the backbone of the country, aren't they?
Yeah.
In every sector.
It's becoming truer as every year goes by. Yeah.
Yeah.
But guys, is there anything else you want to say on your organisation or anything coming up, or just in general?
Just check us out. Oh, sorry, Karen, Rob. I was going to say, just check out the website, especially on the dad's page as well. We've got our animation that we did about it was some of the experiences of the dads we've supported. We had it turned into an animation that won an award at the Smiley Film Awards, won the silver award for it in London at the red carpet event. It was great. Check out the video. Dad's Struggle Too. It's on YouTube. It's on the website as well.
Well, send that over to me, Ben, and I'll share it on our social media.
Bro, we'll do.
Oh, that'd be really good. But yeah, I mean, I'd definitely encourage people to come and like visit our website just to look at the information and just watch a few of the videos of people's stories and stuff. Because, you know, I think that for yourself, you know, if you're concerned, if you're struggling at all, they can help you to see where you're at and maybe encourage you or not to seek more support, or if you need it, or just put your mind at rest. That, like we've said before, it's not just you. It's like it's the norm. And so watching other people's stories and realizing, you know, hope's a massive thing in it, you know, for everybody. But when you're struggling with mental health problems, like we've, you know, been talking about, hope's one of the things that just disappears over the horizon really quickly, isn't it? And that's really essential. And I think listening to other people who've been through it, you know, so that you realize that it is quite normal, and you can see that there's a path to getting better, and you will get better.
I always think hope, it doesn't die, just sometimes it has to hibernate. And just
Yeah.
remember that it has to hibernate so it can come back in the spring. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like a little ember. All it takes is that little ember that can catch on fire and light the world on fire again.
It's just over the horizon, isn't it, very often? And we think it's not there. Just make some little steps sort of towards the horizon. And so I think, you know, websites, obviously we're banging on about ours, but, you know, getting on Google and having a look, as I say, listening to other people's stories, getting a bit of information can just open up that little glimmer of hope again, and just be a first step to getting better.
Did you both suffer yourselves? Did you suffer, Rob? With
yeah, really, yeah, I really did very badly. Yeah, my second son, when my second son was born. Yeah, and I was really struggled because, like I said, I was saying before, it just smashed all my paradigms, because as far as I was concerned, I wasn't that sort of person. And actually I had a sort of negative view of people who were that sort of person, even though that was sort of hidden to myself. I realised that when I got ill, because I couldn't cope with the idea that like I'm one of those people that's gone mad and not coping and is whatever. So yeah, I did go through all that. I wouldn't go to the doctor. I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I was like curled up in a ball for days, unable to do anything. And in the end, my mate, who's a mental health nurse, because I was trying to talk to him on the phone. I didn't want to go to the doctors because I got this idea in my head. If I talk to the doctor, he's going to want to put me on medication, and then that's it. I'm on medication for life. I'm mad. They're going to lock me up, and it was just all this sort of stuff. And he said to me, Rob, just go to the flipping GP, will ya, and get some pills. It's a little pill. Take the pill. Said, and then we'll have a conversation again in a few weeks. But what you're saying and what you're thinking, all that stuff, is because of where you're at and where you're stuck. Once you started taking that little pill for a couple of weeks, you're going to take it forever. Take it for a few weeks, and then we'll have a chat, and then you can decide, I ain't going to take this anymore. Just take it for a few weeks. But you'll see that when we get to a few weeks down the line and it starts working, you'll realise, actually, it's not such a big thing. It's exactly what happened, and a couple of months down the road, there I was taking my little pill every day. I couldn't give a toss. I was perfectly happy to take it for the rest of my life because, it really helped when I needed it.
And once again, it's a stigma with medication, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to get on them. You'll be on them for a till. And it's
who cares?
I'm going to take this little tablet. Some people are taking tablets. I've come away from tablets. Some people, they need that little tablet, like an iron tablet or a bloody indigestion tablet. And you're thinking, I'm not me anymore. I'm not spaced out to the world. Sometimes it's just that little bit of an equalizer to get you through everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly physical. We're happy with pills for physical conditions. It's an old cliche, but it is true, isn't it? I'm happy taking them for physical conditions, but like if it's for something for your mental health, then somehow it's just not right, and I should be able to cope without it and blah de blah. You wouldn't tell somebody they need to be coping without insulin. They need to be working themselves off it, or a blood pressure pill or whatever. It's just one of those weird things, isn't it?
In my experience as well, a lot of people that are very anti-medications, I don't trust the pharmaceutical companies and all that, are quite happy and trusting their dealer for whatever's mixed in with their cheap bag of Charlie,
Yeah. And it's ridiculous that sounds. They go like, you'll lamp whatever up your schnoz every weekend, but you won't have this tablet that might make you feel better. And then, but you know, and that you've got to be there on your journey, haven't you? Yeah, and I think you can't force help. You can't force recovery onto someone. It's going to be, and I say, what's the worst that can happen? You know you're miserable right now. So isn't it worth having a chance of feeling a bit better?
Yeah, that's dead right.
Yeah, and it's always worth like trying to highlight to people as well that progress isn't always like a straight line, is it? Sometimes you go a couple of steps backwards, you go around in loops, and then eventually you get there. But it's not always a straight one trajectory direction. And sometimes you have to try different things, and then you'll get knocked back, and you might have to try a different medication that works a bit better and then loses effects. But there's another one, and you keep trying, keep battling, and eventually you'll get there. You just got to give it a shot, aren't you?
Nothing changes one big moment. No, nothing's ever moved by someone moving a mountain. It's tiny little steps, tiny little journeys, and all of a sudden you turn around. There was rubble, and you've got a mountain in front of you. You're going, I've actually done more than I ever thought I could, because it's happened so gradually and so slightly. It's made the greatest difference. And that's what every day, there's that lovely saying on the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. I don't know how to get there. What could you see? You step in front of you, yeah? So focus on the step in front of you and you'll get there. And sometimes when we look at too far at the horizon, it's too far, it's too big, but just focus on your next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. Really important.
And realise you're not the only one. And if you keep moving there, sometimes forward, sometimes backwards, sometimes you've got to have a bloody sit down because it's hard work. But that's progress. And we can get there. So, guys, it's been wonderful talking. And Ben, do you want to go a bit into your journey, your struggles?
Yeah. I guess for me, as I've spoken before, obviously I've got put my teeth in first. Hang on. Long-standing mental health since I was about 13, 14. So I went to the mental health services and had support for bipolar and OCD. And then when my Sonny was born, he was during the pandemic, so obviously on top of the usual anxieties and neuroses I would have had anyway, and the pressure I was putting on myself, there was the pandemic to deal with as well. So for me, it was more so anxiety than depression in this instance. And I was just scared to the point of, as many blokes are, that I was worried about dropping the baby. I was worried about, am I going to hold him too tight? Am I going to do something wrong? Am I going to be asleep and something bad will happen, and all of that? So I'd be waking up, checking his breathing, as lots of dads do, but it was quite a long time. I was absolutely obsessed with washing my hands all the time, because it was the pandemic, so my hands used to crack and bleed, and they were pretty rough. It was pretty bad. And then just on top of it, I was angry at everyone for not meeting my standard of, okay, you need to be clean, you need to keep this distance from him. So it was really hard for my folks when Sonny was born, because they really wanted, obviously, their first biological grandchild. They wanted to be around him, wanted to make that bond with him, and I just wouldn't let them really in the way that they wanted, because there were still regulations in place that obviously certain people in power didn't adhere to. But whilst they were enjoying their cheese and wine parties, others were sort of dying slowly from this sense of letting people down, and that dilemma between, do I let my parents have this bond, or do I protect my son? And it was just that constant dilemma, that constant dichotomy of am I being a good son, am I being a good dad, or a bad dad by son, kind of thing. So yeah, lots of that stuff really. Just worried all the time that he was going to die at any moment, and I really hanging on to every second, especially with the neonatal ward experience as well. And I have to say, the staff were amazing. They really helped me. They could see that I was a nervous dad, and they kind of gave me a little crash course in how to look after him, how to feed him, how to change him, and all that. And obviously, at that period of your life, you want to be around your nearest and dearest. I didn't get to see my wife for 19 days pretty much, because we weren't allowed in the ward together. It had to be one at a time. We weren't allowed to swap over in the room. It had to be go down the corridor, say a quick hello, hug, off you go, kind of thing. So it was a very unnatural time. between a new parent, and I think lots of the dads I support have had similar experiences as well. Really, so that's that. That's it in a nutshell, anyway.
But I mean, in a nutshell, but what a lot of trauma to go on. You know what I mean? It's like you've got like the world's ending. The world's ending, and we all laugh about the pandemic now, and it was a load of cobblers. At that time, it was the Black Death and the plague, and then having to go against, am I a good son or am I going to? I can't risk my parents killing my baby over being obligated to be a good son. And we laugh about these things, and and people say, like my mum and dad were living down the road, and it was, well, we want to see the baby. Well, no, because how about if I give it to you? And dad was on the vulnerable list, and all these things seem so trivial now. But you're thinking, well, I don't want to be the one who kills you, or I don't want you to be the one to kill my baby, because I can't live with the guilt or the anger or the shame or the betrayal on losing someone I love or allowing it. I don't want to be the one who lost everything. And there are a lot of harsh emotions. It's not like stealing my bloody garden gnome or the plates getting broke. These are the most important people in my life, and I want to keep everyone safe. And it's so much on us, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. It was heavy. It was really heavy.
And it is like when I had my daughter. I see I've got very bad eyesight, Rich being blind, and you worry about that. Am I going to be? I know I love it, but can I change the nappy? Can I do this? Can I put the car seat on? And your disability affects you, and you worry about it. And can I do this? And then one day, Kate had gone out, and my daughter had an accident, had a poo, and I hadn't changed the nappy. It's not because I didn't want to be a bad dad. I didn't want to leave a mess. And you know what you do? You do your best, bish bash bosh. You do it because there's two options: leave my baby soiled, or do your best. And I did my best, and it was all right. And once you overcome that fear of I did my best because I had to, it gets easier. But that first time of feeling I'm going to damage the child or fail, the fear of failure is worse than being a failure. You know what I mean? But the fear of it, and then you try your best and you do it, and you go, wow, I've overcome that. And that's what we all have to do: meet the fear and take it head on. Because often, even if I do it wrong, I did my best. I didn't deliberately hurt my child. I was trying my best to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think you made a good point there as well. Often with dads, we are kind of seen as like secondary parents, or second best, because we haven't got this, lifelong building up to you're going to be a parent. So sometimes people will try to be helpful and they'll step in and go, okay, the bloke's struggling. I better step in and sort it all out, whatever. But actually what you need is, as you said, just practice in building that confidence, building that rapport with your kid. Say, for example, doing bath time, getting changed, all that kind of stuff. It's really helpful just to be given that chance to practice and be assured that, even if you don't get it right first time, you get points for trying, and also you will get better with it. Actually, do if anything, you keep doing over and over again.
Repetition.
Yeah.
Repetition. And, as I said earlier, I think if you're worrying about it, you're doing a good job because you care. You know what I mean? If you're worrying, am I a good dad? Am I a good mom? Am I a good nanny? Am I a good granddad? Yeah, because at least you give a toss to care. At least you give a toss to worry about if you're not a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, I always like to finish with a quote or a saying, either from your organisation or from yourself. So, Ben, because you've been on here first, we're going to go over to you first.
Oh, he put me on the spot now. I knew this was going to come. I even prepped Rob. I said to Rob, you need to have a quote ready for the end, but I didn't think of one for myself. So, let's repeat the one from last time then. It's Jimi Hendrix. It was when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Boom.
Yeah. And Rob, over to you, bruv.
Well, it's all downhill now. How about this one? Every dead body on Mount Everest was once a highly motivated person, so maybe calm down a bit.
I've got another one. Can I have another one? Yeah. Okay. If at first you don't succeed, bungee jumping is not for you.
Well, guys, thank you ever so much for coming on. Now, we're not here next week, guys, because it's my beautiful wife's birthday. In fact, we're going to go and see Jointed and George's in Liverpool, giving them all the support. So, looking forward to it. How many times I've missed them in the Black Country, so I thought I'd go to Liverpool to see them on my wife's birthday. That's what love is, guys. But the following week, we're joined by Sarah, who's a clinical psychologist. So tune in for that. If you are bored next week, there's a massive archive. Go to our YouTube channel or onto our podcast platform.
Radio.
Oh, yeah, we're on the radio with Warren Davis, a very good friend of mine from Priory Park. That's coming out next Thursday, not this Thursday, the Thursday after. So tune into Black Country Extra. So, guys, until we all see each other next time, until we see each other next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.